Hey there everybody, this is Lee with Creative2xmom and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a part of a collaboration where we are talking about 5 tips for new homeschooling families. It's that time of year. We have now rolled into August and we're thinking about back to homeschool, and I know a lot of you are on the journey of starting your new homeschool and you're excited and you don't know what's going to happen and you're probably a little bit nervous. So I want to share with you the 5 things that have been on my heart that will hopefully kick you off to starting this amazing journey with your kids. Now, this video is actually part of a collaboration. The hostess is Michelle from Homeschooling in the Pines, and I'm so thankful that she invited me to join in on this one. So I will leave her channel as well as the playlist linked down below. So my first tip is to remember less is more. And this is something that I remind myself even as a veteran homeschooler every year. Less is more. You can always build, especially if you're starting out with preschoolers, kindergartners, first graders, even into second grade. You can always add later on, but don't overwhelm your kids right away. Remember, you are getting into a rhythm. They are getting into a rhythm. You've had the whole summer off. If you're pulling kids out of public school, they're used to having the summer off. They're needing to get back into their sleeping routine. They're needing to remember, oh yeah, my brain's got to work. I got to move up, get up, move my body. Remember that I've got things to do and I've got deadlines. You are getting into a new rhythm as a homeschool parent. You probably have never done this before, or if you're returning, maybe it didn't work out so great the first time. Less is more. So for our particular homeschool, what this looks like is the first week, sometimes even week and a half, I start with half their subjects. We don't even do a full day of school. We school in the morning a little bit and then we have fun. Mom runs errands. I plan a couple of fun things to do, not every day, but a couple of fun things to do in that first week, and we just ease ourselves back into routine. If I were to go back and start this over, and this was my very first year of homeschooling, I would just start with less subjects. That first week, I would just do half of what I had planned, but I wouldn't plan every little thing, especially if you have little ones. Don't worry about the grammar right off. Don't worry about the geography right off. Don't worry about the music right off. Know what your priorities are and just do a few things to ease yourself into this, because there is a little bit of a learning curve. It will be okay. You will adapt, but don't overload yourself right away. Combine as much as you can. Combine as many kids as you can, as many subjects as you can, and know that less is more. It's better to have a depth of knowledge than this little shallow field that sometimes we get ourselves into because we think we have to do everything. You don't have to do everything. My second tip, and this is still the hardest for me 5-6 years into this journey, is don't compare your kids and don't compare your homeschool. Don't compare your kids to each other. That's hard when I go, they've all been raised in the same house. They've all got the same teacher. They're all doing the same subjects at different levels, yes, but they're doing the same subjects. I work just as much time with this one as I do with that one. Why are they not learning the same? They're not. They're not going to learn at the same rate. They're not going to learn in the same way. They might not even learn the way you learn. Don't compare them to each other. That's okay. If they were in public school, I wouldn't compare my kids to each other, but because they're at home, I think that that's okay, and I still fall into that trap. The other part of that is don't compare your homeschool to someone else's. Know your priorities. For me, I want my kids to know their math, and I want them to be able to read and read well and decipher what they're reading. So all those other things are important to me. Geography is pretty high on that list as well, but those are my 2 main priorities. For another homeschool mom that I know, some of her biggest priorities are getting her kids out into their farm. They do a lot of music study. They do a lot of art study. Those are things I would love to include in my homeschool, but I know that I can't. And so I step back and I go, okay, what are my priorities? If everything else fell away and I only had time for X, Y, and Z, what would fall into those spaces? So your homeschool might look totally different simply because of what you prioritize and what's important to you. Number 3, while you're doing your planning, you're getting your curriculum all laid out and you're so excited and you're going to achieve so much throughout the year, don't forget yourself. And again, this is something that I have a hard time remembering to do. Plan some teacher in-service days. Public school teachers get them. Why do we think that we have to be super mom and we don't need time to plan? We absolutely need time to plan. I have been doing some like continuing education for myself over the summer. You need that time to pour into yourself as a teacher. Because this is something that you're taking on, and if you're like me, you want to do it really, really well, but you can't just do it in little pockets of time. So try to plan yourself a couple of teaching days. Maybe you need a Saturday away every once in a while, maybe a Saturday morning away every once in a while to just read and refresh and to learn new techniques and to maybe take an online class. Plan those in-service days so that you have time to gather your material. You have time to plan so that when it's actually time to teach the lesson, you can feel a little bit more at ease that you are prepared and things are going to go fine. Of course, not everything's going to go as planned. That's kind of the part of this one too, is to have that flexibility. But when you have a plan and you've given yourself time to look at your charts or your gradebook or whatever, your lesson plans, then you can feel a little bit more confident that when those curveballs come, you know how to deal with them. Number 4, remember everyone has bad days. Everyone. If you were at the school and one of your kids' teachers was having a bad day, of course you wouldn't expect them to take it out on your kids, but you would be there as a sympathetic friend to understand they're having a bad day. If your kids came home from school, you would sit down with them at the table and know they had a bad day and they just needed to talk it out. I don't know where this myth came from that homeschool kids should just be eager to learn at all times. They're not. Sometimes they didn't get enough sleep. Sometimes breakfast wasn't what they wanted. Sometimes the shirt they wanted to wear was dirty. Sometimes, their best friend called and canceled a play date. It happens. Everyone has a bad day. A bad day does not make a bad homeschool. So know that you're human, know that your kids are human. Maybe your husband comes home from work early and he's sick and it throws off your whole routine. I love my husband, but when he's home from work, it throws off our whole routine. Know that everyone has a bad day. Have a little bit of backup plan. On those days, my backup plan is just get our math and our language arts done, and then we do a project, we read, we do a craft, we watch a documentary for science that day. Have a little bit of a backup plan and know that a bad day does not make a bad homeschool. And my last tip is to pray. And actually, this could even go right up to the top of my first tip, and it just needs to cylindrically be planned into your homeschool throughout the year. Maybe you don't pray, maybe you meditate, maybe you have time of just contemplation and quiet. But remembering, for me, prayer is that thing, and remembering to pray for my kids, to see one of the greatest gifts of homeschool is to see their strengths and their weaknesses, and taking time to pray for those strengths, that they would continue to grow, that they would continue to develop. How can I foster them? How can I push them in that area and shine a light on what I really believe is a strength of their personality? And the same with their weaknesses. How can I build them up in that area? How can I prepare them for the future by giving them a little bit more, giving them a little piece to work on in that area? Praying, because knowing that I don't have all the answers. I can't do this homeschool thing on my own. I don't have the strength on my own. And so praying and asking for the Lord to give me guidance and to give me wisdom and how to be a better mom to my particular kids and my particular family. I can't tell you how much wisdom and how much peace and how much extra dose of patience I have had on the days that I take the time to step back and actually pray for our homeschool. So those are my 5 tips for new homeschoolers out there. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know if you're a veteran homeschooler, what would you add to this list? How would you encourage new homeschoolers, and what tip would you give them? And if you're a new homeschooler, of course, make sure you hit that subscription button down below. On this channel, we talk about parenting, we talk a lot about homeschool, we talk about books, and we talk about thriving in the day-to-day life. So I hope you will join us. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.